Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode here on African Confessions. The following story that you're going to be listening to, it is a continuation of that story that I once posted about that lady who said that she saw a snake that had a Doek. Well, the message continues like this. My brother, too many lives had been lost, and a life lost is one too many. But we needed to tread carefully, for if Lady Boss found it out that Mike was planning all of these things that he was planning now with me, and he had included me into his plan, both of us, we were going to end up dead. Lady Boss had once angered the snake by not giving in to its demands, and that accident she had been caused by that duped snake. What about the man of the house? I asked Mike, is he in this whole sacrificing thing? Whose idea is it? Is it the Lady Boss idea? Then Mike said that he believed that the Lady Boss's husband, he was the one who was the successful entrepreneur and who had the brain for the business. It was rumored that he was under a very powerful spell, and anything that you say to him about that duped snake, he won't believe it. Besides, Mr. Boss had never been himself ever since he had slept with Susanna, the maid, and after Susanna had passed away, he was all acting abnormal. Mike and I started to meet here and there. This was after I had recovered, and then we were putting together a fireproof plan. We knew we had to win this war. Initially, we had planned to expose the whole story to the media and the neighbors, but that was very impossible. It was nearly impossible, for when we first started working at the mansion in Doek City, Lady Boss had made us to sign this other piece of papers that had a lot of pages. It was only after when Mike had told me everything, then he said, "Did you sign anything?" And then I said yes, and he said, "Oh, so you signed it also?" I said, What is wrong? It was just a contract for our employment. He said, "No, it is called an NDA." I said, "What is an NDA?" He said, "It means it is a non-disclosure agreement. I do not want anyone knowing my business, what happens here where I stay." And I still remember that line. This was when Mike was reminding me Lady Boss had written everything in that piece of contract that was going to make sure that we were never going to reveal anything to any of her enemies, and we were never going to expose her. With the NDAs, it meant that if we ever said anything to anyone, she was going to sue us. Besides, their hands were too oiled to bribe anyone, from the police to the judiciary, so that option was out of the picture. The following day, what happened was that Mike then told me that he wanted to see me. Mike invited me to his house so that we can put our plan in motion, our plan to end that deadly creature. I arrived very early in the morning. When I arrived, I was in good spirits. I was going to avenge the death of Susanna and Angela. I had not met them physically, but I felt like they deserved some kind of justice, and their souls deserved to rest in peace. Besides, I had nearly died because of that duped snake, so it deserved to die. Mine was a revenge best served cold. Mike welcomed me, and we went to the back rooms behind the house. Mike said he wanted to visit the bathroom to change, and when he came back, I came to the realization that I had been trapped. How could I have not sensed or seen this? I trusted Mike. The moment that I realized that this was a trap, I started crying. I trusted you, Mike, I said as I was crying. Mike came back with the Lady Boss, and as soon as the Lady Boss saw me, she let out a cruel laugh as he was clapping her hands, holding her hips. Soon after that, Mike was clad in this evil attire fire that I had never seen before. And he said to the lady boss, I promised you that I was going to deliver her. Here she is in flesh. I felt my knees go wobbly before me. How could Mike betray me like this? We had made promises to each other. I was a fool. I was a fool to believe that we were going to defeat Lady Boss and her evil snake. Little did I know that Mike the gardener had been in this with the Lady Boss. He is a witch doctor there to protect her. The snake belongs to them, and I felt very weak. Get her in the house, Lady Boss said to Mike, and let's get it over and done with. Lady Boss said to Mike, for sure. Mike agreed. Everything seemed like a dream, but it was happening now in reality. In the house, the Doek snake was coiled up and Mike started to chant some inaudible incantations. He seemed to be talking to the Doek snake as if he was giving it some instructions. The snake lifted its head, ready to pounce on me. It was then when I started to pray. I had never prayed like that before. I started praying and I prayed. That was when the God of Elijah, who had answered by fire before the prophets of Baal, the God who fought for the Israelites, I summoned the angels to come and to battle with me. I remember that I started speaking in tongues, praying more and harder, and Lady Boss started to shrink. I saw her shrink right before my eyes till she turned into a dog. So Lady Boss changed into the other head of the snake. She and the snake, they were both intertwined. Did it mean that when I jumped from the balcony, Lady Boss knew about it? That's why she had cut her Bactician trip short. She already knew, yet I had not called her. So it was Mike who had been feeding the snake with the chickens and the cow thighs that always went missing. A lot of things now was making sense to me. The snake was now laying flat and Mike was putting something in the fire. I kicked the fire with my whole strength and fled out of that room, locked the door from the outside, and had deafening screams of pain. After the screams, there was stillness. I knew that I had won this war. The world would not miss you, Mike. Neither was it going to miss you, Lady Boss. And my brother, later on, that was when I heard that the Lady Boss, she had actually committed suicide, as well as Mike. When this story was now coming out, that was when people started to say that actually Lady Boss, she used to sleep with this Mike, and this Mike, my brother, you won't even believe that they were actually siblings. Mike was the brother to the Lady Boss, yet they used to do that evil act of sleeping together. And the boss, after he had found out that this was what his wife was doing, sleeping with the brother, that was when they started to use a lot of charms on the boss. And then the boss, it seemed as if there was something that was wrong with him. This I had seen when I started working for the Lady Boss. As for her husband, the man was always quiet, not knowing what he was thinking. The man was controlled by his wife. And when I heard the story that the boss, he had seen several times his wife sleeping with a brother, and I then started imagining the pain that he had to go through, knowing that on that night when the Lady Boss wanted to go to sleep with the gardener, who was the traditional healer, who was the sibling as well, I just imagine how it felt for the boss, like sleeping in that bed alone, cold at night, knowing that your wife is busy making love to her own brother. I think it was too traumatizing for the boss, but the charms that they had fed on the boss, it was just too much. It was said that when he returned back, when he found out that the wife was hanging, she had hanged herself by the staircase, as well as the brother had also ended his own life. The husband, he could not take it anymore. That was when he started to lose his mind, and he was running around holding a loaded gun. Then he was shot down by the police when he threatened the police. Dear listeners, right there was a message. It was the continuation of that message that was sent to me by one of our admins.